I did get a message in Slack. Let me launch that and see if I saw anything else. While I was rebooting, I saw a message from Martin that I don't think he's going to come on till 4. So, I mean, we might, I don't really want to preview stuff with you that other people are going to want to see.
Right.
So we might just do like a Q&A thing if you want to do that.
Well, I mean, I guess the real thing is like, since I'm a beginner and, you know, I'm still learning this, I want to do something, but then at the same time, the goal for me is to learn.
Right,
So,
right.
and
So,
I don't want to just sit back either. I mean,
yeah,
I want to try to apply something that I'm trying to learn. So basically my level, is, well, with Joan, I still don't know why, like, she did help me with the storyline and getting the xAPI statements to go out. Then I did it again, and I don't know why it didn't go out. And then I just copied the link. But I am learning that, with JavaScript, it's pretty fragile. Like
yeah,
you're spaced off. You're like you're missing a dot
yeah. And that was
or
sort of
off,
my
and it just
concern.
doesn't work. So like, where I'm trying to, maybe like the thing, if you said, all right, like I think I'd like to learn too, like a little bit, like how to do the front end a little on the skins with the live code, and maybe like there's some basic things you could say, oh, I think you could do this, and you could lay this down like this if I'm copying certain things
Yeah.
over, that I could help out.
Okay. Yeah. So actually something that I started on right before we got connected, and I set it up as a video. And then I've got a project in LiveCode that I've made that I can share back out. And it's based on what Joan was able to do and what Helen put together in the slides. So I'm sort of thinking it sort of makes progress how I wanted to see progress moving forward a little bit. So, that's sort of something I can share, and it'll help you sort of see, um, how do I put it? Some of the structure behind what, how LiveCode sees the file, sees the stack, and how you can interact with things. And the other part of it is um, what I'm doing is taking Joan's baseline project where she's sending the xAPI command, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying, okay, so for video, we want to be able to send this list of commands one at a time. So I'm setting up this stack with a card for each for each command in the list. And I'm adding a card for each one. I set it
Okay.
up where things are in the background and you can see how things are added in the background. And then, like I always do, I say, oh, well, what if I put this in the background? And I've already made 3 cards. So the things that I created and put in the background before I made the new cards show up.
Yeah.
And then if I
Okay.
make a new card after the last one, it doesn't show up in the background. So I have to copy it and paste it. And part of what I, recorded was that logic and why that happens. And that's one of those things that I sort of felt like when I was learning it was a bit invisible. But part of it is the logic is, if you have one card in your stack and you say I want these things in the background, you're putting them in that position, or actually you have to group them and put them in
Mm-hmm.
the background. And once you do that, any new cards you make see them, or
Okay.
display them, I should say. But after I made 3 cards, I went in and created a graphic and marked it as a group and put it in the background. And none of the cards that I'd already created presented that or displayed that information. But if I create a new card, which is what I did, both of the objects show up. So my thinking is, part of that is you have to grasp that when you make something and put it in the background, you're not saying put it in for all the cards I've created. You're saying at this point in time, any cards that share the background will now display it. And if you've already created cards, okay, if you've already created cards, you have to manually go back and add it to them. And all I did was I showed how to do that. Again, you'll see that in the video. And part of
Okay.
what I'm thinking with this project is, by putting a a field that is the statement field and another field that is the results field in the background. Each time I
Mm-hmm.
create a new card and name it, those fields show up.
Okay.
And the idea is that each statement, I'm sort of wrestling with the redundancy, but each time you want to send a statement to the LRS for each different verb, you're going to want a customized statement on that card for that verb. Does
Got
that
it.
make sense?
Yes.
So actually, I'm wondering now if I can also share this with you and show.
When do we have present it though? Like when is it for spring? When is it presented?
It'll be in the middle of April. April 22nd, I think, was our target.
Okay.
So again, I'm sort of, I'm working on a version of this, and I'm hoping, Martin's and David is also somebody who's been working in the background but hasn't really made our meetings, and I'm trying to get him to join into the meetings. But until he does, we're sort of in the dark about whether or not he's working on one and whether or not he's going to be able to share it.
Have you communicated with him at all, David? Have you spoken with David?
We had 4 meetings with him before we started the xAPI cohort. He's one of the LiveCode developers. But then once we started the cohort, he just sort of went dark. He disappeared on us. So part of that is he's in the UK. And he's on London time. So I think our later meeting times are a challenge. So did I start sharing or not? Let me just make sure I am. There we go.
There you are.
So I don't think you see this with both of us, but let me move
I see what your screen.
So now you should be seeing this LiveCode environment. And this is what I was describing is, Joan, I should say, if I go first card, again, let me use this. If I go first on here, command 1, I'm jumping to this first card. And what I did was I said, okay, with what Joan created, I'm in the developer mode. I want these objects, and you can see the highlight now, to be grouped. So I went up to the object menu and grouped them. Of course, now that I grouped them, the commands change to ungroup, edit group, remove group, replace group. So once I group them, this inspector palette changes. So this is the object inspector, which you find under here for object inspector. And because I have multiple items selected and they're marked as a group, I now have a group ID in the name field, and I can rename that so I can call it by name if I want. I just haven't done it. But the other key thing I did is I marked behave like a background. And once I do this is what I was getting at earlier, is once I do that, any new cards I create have that background object set to display any new cards. Any cards I had already created before I made the group or marked it behave in the background, those are sort of in a mode where they were created without knowing about it. So it doesn't appear on them automatically.
Okay.
And then the other thing I did, I went through and created a few cards, and then I added in this graphic. So I resized the stack just by dragging this out, which isn't quite as dramatic as it sounds, but I made the card window bigger. And then I made space for this graphic. And it's an image. I copied and pasted it from a PDF file. It's an image that I copied onto the clipboard and then I pasted it into LiveCode. But because I want it in the background, I did the same sort of process with it. I've got one object selected, but I can go up to the object menu and again select group. Because it's not in a group, I can't do that right now. But let me show you here. So if I select something individually and go to object, it says group selected and place group. Place group means I have something in the clipboard that is a group. And now I got a message that Martin is coming in. So I think you'll see him join. Hey, Martin. And then once I created that group, again, I'm submarining. What is happening? So if I click that object, you can see the behave like a background is selected. And that allows me to say, okay, I want to copy this object. And that gives me the ability to, once I put that on the clipboard, the ability to go up to the object menu and say place that group. So the
Oh.
other thing is
Oh.
the naming thing that I mentioned. I can name them. Well, right now it just shows me their group IDs. So if I go over here and say, this is our verb list, and we'll call this statement fields, statement fields. So now you can see when I select them, the name changes. Well, if I go up to the object menu and say place group, they should be named, but they're not. Martin, you have any insight on that?
You need to refresh it or something?
Yeah, I just saved.
For the group name?
Yeah, I was thinking that just naming them would let me see the group names. Let's see if it works now that I've saved. Nope, it's still showing the IDs. That is confusing to me.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't done it that way before, so. Oh, you're placing, I'm thinking this is a data grid. It's just a group, right?
Yeah, it's just a group. Nothing fancy.
Click on the group again. Just let me see.
So this is one group with the labels, the fields, and the button. And then this is another group that is simply a graphic.
Group ID verb list.
But it
might just be a thing with, because groups are kind of a strange thing.
Yeah, it
with
just
the placing because of no. You had backgrounds there, like placing it as a background. I think it's
it did behave like a background, so that may be some of the confusion.
Because it's an old old HyperCard thing where you could because cards had backgrounds,
right?
And then the backgrounds would be shared, but now that's an optional thing.
Yep.
So it's something a little bit esoteric, I think, for like it doesn't quite work like HyperCard did, and LiveCode doesn't necessarily need it. So maybe it just doesn't like having, because if you want to name something, identifying something, the best, like the clearest way or the most reliable way is to use the ID. So if you have a card or a button or everything's got an ID number. So if you ever had problems where things weren't referring properly, if you use the ID, like card ID 1003 of stack this. And so maybe for groups, they're just using ID because if you don't, it might just fall apart on you. So unless it's a preference. But
I don't think we need to get buried down into it.
Yeah, no.
Thinking that's what it would do. And it's one of those challenges where my knowledge of it didn't update. So we may find it later. But the point is while I'm now on a different card, these objects are instances of the one item that has been marked as a group. And where that pays off is in memory and storage management. These things are stored once and referred to or displayed on different cards. And what I'm doing, on the side with the statement is I'm making a card for for each individual verb that we're going to, modify the statement and then paste it in there. And then when I use the button, I need to make sure it's sending it from this card, but it should send the post statement as we've modified it for each of the verbs. And then over here, you see the graphic, but the other thing I've done is add just an opaque button in front of it with the opaqueness, set to semi-transparent, and the idea, and the label removed. And the idea is it's showing me which card I'm on. So it's sort of acting as a menu, and I can activate it as a menu by making them invisible and using coding to make them invisible but clickable. Or, I should just say hide the color, but clickable. And that way we could navigate around between them by clicking here. Right now, I still have to I haven't built any navigation, so I'm having to use the view and go next command to work through them. So initialized was the first card I made. It has a button on it, and the button is generically named button. But, ideally, I'd want it to be like initialized dash button. The idea being that on this card, if I want to talk to this button and change its color, it has to have a unique name. So if I go to the next card and the played card has a button named button, I'm going to get confused about which one I'm talking to if I just call them all button. This way I can, you know, name them individually, or like Martin mentioned, I can also use their object ID, which is up here in parentheses. And the ID are generated by LiveCode and are unique. They're like a serial number as it goes through. So you can be sure that when you use a ID, you are talking directly to that object and not talking to a number of objects or a group of objects unless you want to.
So is that a group of buttons then?
No. The background is an image that I copied out of a PDF.
Okay.
And then I made it a group and set it to behave like a background. And then this is a individual button that I have placed on this card. So at this
so
point,
you just move.
Yeah, I'm doing very basic navigation by just going next. And
Okay.
he has a back button here on the last card. So if I go previous now, I can sort of scroll through them.
Yeah, because I was thinking if you did that as setting up a bunch of buttons, just with the names, like said, initialized, played, paused, everything as the name, and then make the name show. Then when you clicked on it, it would say you would have the target, and then you could just jump to go card played, go card paused, go card whatever. So that would be a quick way of doing it. You could, if you like to have all of the background, like your artwork was in the background, you just make blank buttons, but still name them all initial, you know, actor, verbs, initialized, whatever, and they're transparent, so they don't show the name because you've got nice graphics and nice alternating colors, and all that would be hard to create. So it's just a inert background. You've got buttons on front, and then when you go to card, so on, you know, when you go to a card, then you could say set, like if you clicked played and card played opened, you would say on open card, set the transparency of button my name, like because you know it's played, to disabled or whatever, or you know 50% opacity or something. So then the button would just would be would both be the give you the interactivity, but then could also overlay some graphic effects so that you could go through and just that becomes a little navigation panel. So that would automate some of the stuff. And that's when using labels are really good, because you can just, once you've got the, once you click on it, it says on mouse up, put the name of the target or you know, into button clicked. So the name of the target is given to you, and then you use that to go to the card, go to card button clicked.
So Helen, were you able to join in?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone.
Hello.
Good. Oh, there it goes. Okay. We sort of jumped in again with some of the LiveCode environment or development work, and I'm going to join without video. I have two computers going, so I'm going to join on both of them, which means I have to let myself in, which is
you get an extra vote.
Extra vote. Good point.
Stacking the ballots.
Actually, I have a video on the other machine that I want to try and show, and we'll see how that works.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the other part of it is, you know, we were talking through this project. This is sort of what Joan put together. So I've elaborated a bit on what Joan had started with. But Helen, I also went through your slides and grabbed some of the graphic from the slides to show the list of statements that I was thinking we'd use for the video. So I wanted to say I appreciate your efforts on that. That is definitely a helper. And as I go through some of the notes from the project, I'll also be able to add those in and see if we can't capture. So
Wonderful, thank you.
notes as we go. And
So I'm going to start a project based on Joan's xAPI reporter. And I'm thinking I build the initial card as a settings card and then add cards on top of it to handle the JSON or the xAPI statements, meaning the JSON for the video profile or video actions that we might use. So you're seeing the image. I have the card. I hit Object Card Inspector. I change that to Settings. So now I have two of them open. And now the card name is Settings. So if I go Object, New Card, you can see that I've got a new card, also named Settings, which is odd. And some of the things are in the background. So let me show you how I did the things in the background. So I selected these, did this off camera, I apologize. I looked at Object Inspector, and then I selected the items and grouped them under Object, Create Group, ungroup selected and remove grouper options, but I've grouped them. And then I clicked on Behave Like a Background. So now when I create a new card, it sees the objects that are in background. They're considered to be in a background shared between multiple cards, which means they appear. You can see if I go into edit mode, they don't have any data. So I can go backward. Let me go back to card 1 using keyboard command. I can go previous, go next. So the controllers are here when I'm in this browse mode. So I can go to first card, go to previous card, go to next card, go to last card, and then go recent, which if I have multiple cards and navigate around, I can use that to jump from card 1 to card 15, and then go recent will take you back to card 1. It's probably a bad example. Say if I was on card 3 and I wanted to go card 15 and then jump back to card 3, I could do that without using these other options. So if I'm on card 1 and jump to 15, I can go first. But if I'm on 3 and need to jump to 15, I have to worry about using the recent, or I have the availability of the recent option. So I'm not having to store in memory a variable that says which card I'm on. So at this point, we are in card settings. I'm going to again go View, go Next. And then the other option would be to put a label field out there. And in the label field, it's sort of challenging, but the name of the field is label field. The text of the field where it says label is actually buried in one of the properties screens. So I'm sort of jumping around to see that. And apologies for not navigating to it directly, but here, no, that's custom properties. And here is contents where it says label. So in this case, I want to set up a card. And I'm going to scroll off screen for a moment. I'm going to set up a new card based on what we see for options for curating videos. So let's say I want this to be the initialized card. And so now I've changed this. So again, if I go onto Object and say New Card, that label field disappears. And I'm still seen as being on the new card without a label. So I can actually use the navigation, View, go previous, you see initialize reappears. If I go back into edit mode and click on the field, again, it's not part of that group. So, oh, that's going to be challenging. I just make it part of the other group, it's going to disappear behind things. So right now I'm just going to simply copy it, go to next card, review, go next, choose Command 3, paste, and again go through the edit process of looking at the contents. And instead of initialized, I want this one to be played. So again, that changes. I put a semicolon instead of a colon. So I'm going to select it again, go to the second table, which is contents, delete the semicolon and shift colon so it's looking like the other card. And now we have a played card. The other thing I realize I'm not doing is changing the name of the card. So at this point they should match. So played, played, and then if I go previous, sorry, I have to click on the window for the app in order to get the commands to show up correctly. If I go previous, you can see we're on initialized. Let me see if I'm confused because the card inspector doesn't appear to be changing the cards. It sure doesn't. And change that to initialized. Close it again. View, go next, which is played, object, card inspector, and again, set the name to played. And what I'm realizing is I had the card inspector for the first card open, so I changed that name. So we need to go previous a couple times. Command 2, initialize. Command 2 is settings. So we're going to look at object card inspector, and this is how you set up a series of cards with card names. And I want this to be settings, and I had changed it before, so now I have it set to settings and close that. Card played is now settings. So one of the things to realize is if I open the message window, I can now say go card played. And I'm using the name of the card as an object for the target of the go card command. And I'm telling it I want to go card played. I can also go back or go forward or go specifically to settings. So if I change played to settings, and I'm having to type this information, but the control characters that show up under view, command 1, command 2, command 3, command 4, allow you to do it a little more quickly without that. So at this point, I have the settings card, I have initialized, played, I want to create a card for pause, create a card for seeked, create a card for interacted, completed, and then terminated. And that will sort of serve as our starting point, but let me show you why I'm doing that. So if I switch over to my viewer, I can open up the creative PowerPoint that Helen put together for us. And I want to basically use this as a model for the different commands we could use. And so I just did a screen grab, and I should say a regional screen grab, just selecting that region. And now that I'm back in LiveCode on the settings card, I've resized it, and if I paste, I'm pasting in that graphic from my clipboard. So now at this point, if I go back into play mode, and actually it doesn't matter, I can go card settings whether I'm in play or dev. If I go card settings, I'm on the card I meant. I want to play, go card played. And it jumps to the card labeled played. And you can see that graphic again has been pasted on the first card. It's not part of the background object, so it only shows up on the first card. So there's a number of ways to make that graphic show up on each card. And if you wanted to highlight a different object on it, on each card, the best way is to put it in the background and make the object part of the card. So again, if I go back to settings, select the object and look at Object Inspector. So again, I don't have an option to put this in the background. It's set to an image, so it has some different characters than we've seen before. If I go into Object and say I want a group selected, I'm creating a group of one item. And now I want to say behave like a background. That is going to put it in the background of this card, which is also where this is located. So at this point, if I go next card, it's not showing up. So the idea is, even though these items are in the background, they were in the background when this card was created. So one of the important things to understand is if you create multiple items in the background before you generate new cards, you are saying, I want one of these new items on the background of each card as I go through. What I've just done by going to card settings and creating this item in the background after I've created cards is add the ability to say whether or not I want them on it. And the best way to sort of visualize that is I'm going to create a new card. So under under object, I want to go new card. And now you see I have a card that has both the statement, or both these fields, and the graphic on the background. So a new card is generated with all the background objects. And if I go previous, you're going to see I'm back to the settings. So if I go next and go next, I'm now on the initialized card, which does not have that graphic. So at this point, I can go in and paste the graphic in again. But what I've done is, since I had it on the clipboard as a graphic, I've pasted the graphic. And I showed you this rather quickly, but this means I have a new instance of the graphic, which would take up more memory. So actually what I want to do is delete this instance that I just created, go to the previous card, and click on the object, or excuse me, the grouped image that says behave like a background. And now I copy that. I'm just showing you copy under the edit menu. It's saying copy objects, meaning it sees it as a group. I'm going to go next. And this generates, or excuse me, this takes me to that card that's initialized. And I can paste the object. Again, I'm using the menu to show you the command now identifies it as paste objects. And now that the object is selected, you see it's marked as behave like a background. So again, by creating the image, pasting it onto a card, grouping it, and marking it as a background, behave like a background is turned on, I then need to copy that grouped version, and now I'm not adding adding requirements for this image to take up memory. It's just identified as being part of that background. So again, if I go through the other cards we've named and paste, I'm doing that same process where I have behave like a background. This identifies it's the group ID. And then I believe we have one more card. No, we don't. That looks like the first card. So if I go first, I'm on settings where the background exists. If I go next from each of these, you can see how we start to need navigation. If I go next to each of these, I'm now on the card that has not been identified, the card that has the name. Go next again, I'm on initialized. And then what I was getting at is if I use either a button or a graphic or one of these other objects, see what our options are. A tab panel, a rectangle button is probably a good choice. I'm going to drag that out onto the card, and my label is here telling me I'm on the initialized page or on the initialized card. I can now drag the button over initialized. And instead of on auto highlight and shared highlight, I'm going to go through and mark some of the properties in this button with, say, a background fill, and then object owner graphic. Fill, top bevel, focus. If I just change the blend level, you can sort of see what happens with the button. And then if I click here, I get the color picker. I don't want it that dark, so I just want to pick some bright color and have it be noticeable. You see that now I've made it that color, it's opaque and it has a label. So I want to turn the blend down to see that I'm just highlighting the word initialized. And I actually want to go through and remove the label. Visible opaque show name is going to remove the label for the button. So at this point, I have a card that has a background image and a button that identifies which card I'm on. So if I copy that and go next, I can go to the played, I can paste, and I have the same highlight, the same button, but I'm just using this as an overlay to see if I'm on the page screen at this point. So we've sort of hit our time limit for this setup. You can see the reminder on the screen that the meeting is going to start in 2 minutes.
So what I did was I went up to Tools, selected Project Browser. Now that I have it open, I have it closed.
Yeah, that's annoying.
Yep.
That's one of my pet peeves.
If I click on the plus, it expands it and it shows me the name of the cards. Unfortunately, while I was muted and not sharing, I had a card without a card name. So I pointed out you can select it and just name it.
Yeah.
And this is a blank card, so I'm just going to call it in. The other thing you can do, which is sort of critical for this menu structure, is you can see if I go to initialized, it's at the top. So I can drag it around and put it at the top. If I go to paused, it's the third. I want to drag it down and make it the third. So now down here, even though my settings is the first card, I can set it up to where it's the last card. I start with initialized. So the application will now open on the initialized card. And the navigation, if I go next, we'll go to played. If I go next, we'll go to paused. And if I go settings or go to the last, actually the last would be in, but if I go to the next card after that, it would be settings. So part of the project browser is for you to manage how the cards are interrelated, what the order is, what their names are. And again, I've already showed the message box and how having named cards allows you to jump to an individual name. Well, Martin sort of mentioned it. With those names, we can also use scripting within a button and use that as a script. I can, use a script that says go card played, and no matter where I'm at in my stack, if there is a card named played, it will jump to that card within the stack. So at this point, I know it's been a little befuddling, but hopefully I've shown you some of the structure behind LiveCode, some of how you add new cards and name them. Martin has got comments, and I want him to go ahead and jump in and talk a bit about how else we might set up the menu structure that I've got here on the right. And any other comments you want to make, Martin?
Oh, I was just saying, so what you could do, this is going to be remote control coding live. So, and I don't know how this, yeah, it should work, but click on your group that has your LRS, your graphics, or with your browse tool, or not the browse, whatever you call it, the edit tool.
Yeah.
Click on that. Okay, so now right click on it and edit the group.
Yeah, right click on it, he says. Edit group.
Edit group. So everything else disappears. So now you're just looking at the one group. And now, so just draw out one button, like pull over a button, a square invisible button, basically. Okay, so drag it, just cover initialized. And so click on it and do it on the editor, no opaque, like click opaque, yeah, and take off the 3D and the border. So it's basically now just an invisible button, but you can still click on it, and then you can adjust it so that the border so that it just fits initialized.
Oop.
Oh yeah,
The wrong eye.
yeah, click the wrong bit.
So now there we go.
Yeah, so grab the little handles on the edges.
I'm actually remoted from one machine to another, so I'm actually
Okay. Oh, so we're really
running LiveCode.
yeah, bleeding edge.
Yeah.
Okay, so now name that button initialized. Okay, and then so now just copy, like option drag that button down the plate because you've got a good size for it. Oh, did you hold the option key down?
Yep. I thought I did.
shift
Oh.
option.
Yeah, click on initialized.
I don't see it there.
Oh, okay. Try again. Option drag it from. Click on played and this is where you're. Oh, well, there it is. Yeah. So now click on where played was. This is where your project browser comes in handy. You can see actually what things look like. Okay, so that's
I'm not
played.
getting joy if I option drag it. I don't know why it's not duplicating.
Okay, so
Just copy and paste.
yeah, copy and paste.
Now we have two.
Okay, and then rename that one played. Oh yeah, copy paste.
I only have two. I did.
Yeah. Okay, so then you can option drag those two, like not cut and paste the two, and then you've got four, and then. Leave the fiddling till the end. There's some neat things you can do.
Just making sure I have four.
Yeah, okay.
Now I should have six.
Yeah.
And then I'll copy one and paste it for terminated.
Yeah.
So go ahead and rename.
Yeah, so rename them all.
Okay, I think we're there.
Yeah, so now select all your buttons like you did before, just drag everything and then unselect that, and then go to, on your, you've got multiple objects selected. So your project and your property inspector changes. So it says multiple objects. And if you click the last icon on that little row, the last little tab on your property inspector. So click that. And so now you can align them all to the left. So make them left aligned. So under align, just click the left button. So that lines them up that way. And then you can click on the distribute up and down and go edge to edge. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh, it worked. You just have to drag it up a bit for some reason. And hopefully it didn't change the order. So we'll have to check the order.
Yeah, I guess they're not quite.
Oh, they're not quite. Okay.
Which.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so you'll have to. Oh, here's a trick then too. Okay, so here's another trick. Click the very first one, initialized. So drag it a bit more like just sort of make sure you're just right exactly where you want it, the height and everything.
Okay.
Okay, so now shift and click every other button now.
Every other?
Yeah, I mean, all of the other. I should have been more clear. Okay, so now go to that, align controls, and then equalize. Click on the up and down equalize, the second button there. Make the heights equal. Okay, so now click on distribute edge to edge. Oh,
Still something strange going on.
oh, okay. So yeah, so you'll have to go back to manually setting them. I thought they were, it seems to be they're not exactly the same height. So you'll have to manually drag them in that. But that's just how you do if you want to quickly set up some controls. You can set your button and then make the first button the size you want it. And then you can then make them all the same height and align them and then distribute them equally. So you'll just have to back and sorry, I make you do all this extra work.
Right.
Except the other thing is they've changed their order. So I really messed up your thing.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so terminated.
Yeah, that did change the order.
Yeah.
Wow. See?
Sorry, I really created more work for this than it was worth. So initialize goes, yeah, so you need to drag that one down.
Oh, okay. Is there one there? Just that one. Okay. What am I missing? Where's initialized?
Might be hiding now. Completed, interacted, seeked, paused, played. And then
Can we use the project browser, or is it sort of inactive?
Yeah, it should be, yeah. So it's initialized, played, paused.
Right.
Oh, go open your card. Which card were we on? Okay, just click stop editing and then we can go back to this group again. Okay.
We're on
So
settings.
Settings?
Yeah.
Okay, so now open your group. Edit your group. And then settings, your group was called verb list.
Yes.
So in your browser, there's a plus symbol for verb list.
Oh, okay.
Click on that, the plus.
It's not showing me anything. It's weird.
Nothing?
Nothing. I don't know.
Might be hiding behind one of those buttons.
Yeah. Paused. Read. See. Interacted. There it is.
Yeah.
It's always the last
Okay.
place you look.
Yes, exactly. Well, there's a reason why things are always the last place you look. Because it makes no sense to look any longer if you've already found something.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's how I get away with saying it is literally the last place you look.
Yes. Okay. So now we've set up the buttons. So click back. So now stop editing the group. And so now in the group, you're going to, so right click on the group and edit the code of the group.
Yeah, script. Okay.
Yeah. So just do on mouse up.
So part of what we wanted to show, if I start typing on,
We get mouse in there. Oh, you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It stopped. I don't understand why it does that.
Oh, it doesn't like, okay, there it goes. On mouse up.
Get the short name of me.
We'll put the short name of the target into T card. And then go T card. Okay, and then put a breakpoint on 3. Put a little red breakpoint dot. And then apply. Okay, so now just go back and do your browse tool. So click one of the cards. And then put your mouse over G card. Oh, you should, so there's no value in, this is a little troubleshooting thing. You can see there's no value in G card, so this is going to fail miserably. So hit the stop button for the script. Okay, short name should be two words.
Aha.
And you know that you've done it right because now they've changed their color because they're reserved words, so they've got a different color.
Okay.
And so now click on something. Put your mouse over G card. And so now you've clicked on the settings button. So then hit the play button for your code.
There isn't a settings button. I don't know how I got that value, but okay.
Okay. Oh, you know why? Because it's going right through to the card.
Oh, okay.
So it's the name of the card is the settings.
Yeah.
So somehow
I clicked outside, like in here.
Yeah, if you clicked outside, so that shows us, so this is another good troubleshooting thing. You say, this will cause problems. So stop that there, click the stop button. And then, so right after G card, and you probably should use T as in Tom rather than G, because G means a global. And so T would be a temporary variable. Okay, so then put the short name of the target into T card, put your cursor there, hit return, and then say if T card equals quote settings, then, and then hit return. Then so exit mouse up. So what this means is if this is something we don't want, then just quit running this handler. So the handler's name is mouse up. So we get its settings. We don't want to do that because there's no card name settings. So it'll cause an error. So just quit, like just exit this mouse up.
Okay.
If that's not the case, then go T card. So try click on, do we have a card name played? Yeah, so click on played. So put your mouse over T card. Yeah, so it's played. So hit the play button on the top for your script. Oh, go card. Yeah, so there's, anyone spot the error?
Anyone? I didn't put go card. I put go T card.
Yeah, that was my thing. Yeah, so go card, T card. So because we want to say go card played. And so try that again with played. Click on played and see if that works.
There we go.
There. And so now you've got it. And then now click on a different one just to see if this thing works. Okay, edit the script of that, or edit that group. Okay, so this is something I suspected. So I thought, can you edit that group and then that'll apply to everywhere you've placed the group, but apparently not. So you'd have to set up that little group with the buttons and the code first, and then create the cards after.
Okay.
So you just have to, or yeah, that would probably be the best way, right? You could place the group, like delete the group and then place it, that group on the different cards. I don't know if that's a good way to do it, but that's just a way. We were talking about skinning last week, and this is another example of that, is that the graphic that Helen made would be an example of, that's our graphic that we want to use, and we don't want to use LiveCode to put the colors and the white on black, or the white on the color and all of that neat stuff, and the indentations and stuff like that. So you just do that in a graphics program, and then you just put buttons over to make it interactive.
So at this point, I'm just group is placed on multiple cards. Why aren't you telling me that before?
Have you placed it once?
Yes, but
is this our new group or no?
a different group. So it looks like the graphic is still on multiple cards.
Okay, yeah.
The buttons. So what I'm doing is deleting them. It's saying it's on multiple cards.
Yeah.
And then I'm pasting the one with the buttons.
Yeah.
Which should be working. And this one doesn't have it. So now if I go into edit, I should be able to jump around, initialized, played, paused, seeked. I don't think we had these these pages.
Or those cards aren't created yet, so it's just not going. So that's fine.
See, it's giving feedback. So
yeah, and then that's the other thing I was saying, is that now I don't. Here's another. So did you place the group on all those cards?
yes.
Okay, so here's a test to see if we change it here, will it change it on all of them? So go back into edit the script of the group. Oh, no, I think you'd have to put it on the cards, but that's where it's going to say you could put a handler that says on open card, like set the opacity of button played to 50, the button, the short name of me to X% or something, like a way to have an interactivity so you could see what was happening.
It's not going to work to add it to that group after go-kart?
Because that's from the group you're leaving from, not the group. Or try it. Yeah, try it, because it's the group is in the background, it might work. So
I assume 50%.
yeah.
Where can I find that? There we go. How does that look?
Yeah, I don't know if you'd use it as a string, 50%. It might just be to 50, like 50 as a number. So now you've got to see what. Okay, so it's not, you might have to set the visibility of it because we've got it basically invisible.
Oh, yeah.
So find out what the variable is. So go to the,
It says it's visible, it's just not opaque. So if I
yeah,
change
set,
opacity,
yeah,
it's not gonna work.
um, and go further down there to,
Sorry, there was a couple that were, and I'm fishing for them again. Like these shadows, a glow,
yeah,
that'd be better.
or you could just set the border to true. Set the border of button T card to true.
Oh, I can do this.
Yeah, there might be a thing. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. That one, I was just flying by the seat of my pants, so I don't know quite. Because it's working on different cards and different groups, there might have to be something. But it just gives the idea of how you can make that
Right.
navigation thing
That's right.
and use very little code to do it, right? Like just by setting it up with the names of the buttons to match the cards, then you just need a little bit of code to, when you click on it, now you've got the name of the card you want to go to. And then because you've got the name of the card and the button, then you can set the opacity. And we managed to set the opacity. It's just that it wasn't having a visual effect. So we just have to see, okay, we have to set something else. And like Brian was saying, the visual effects are another thing you can do. The one thing I had worked on and didn't finish it, but I could show you what I was doing, is how you get from having these verbs to creating the statement and using LiveCode. So more of the actual functionality. So if you want, I could sort of walk through that.
Okay. I stopped share. You should be able to.
To share? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's turned on.
Okay, I just got to clean out my screen first. So. Is everyone okay? Just sort of like follow or Helen?
This is great.
Oh,
I'm
good.
learning so much.
Okay. Yeah, that's
That
what
was really helpful. The navigation, how you made the choices. I can't wait to try it on my own.
okay.
I'm giggling because I won't be able to do it exactly how you did it. Great
Yeah,
job.
but
Great job.
okay. And Kevin, this is helpful, not helpful?
It's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Keep pace with it. I'm just trying to keep pace where he's.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, that's part of
But
recording.
there's a video, right? You'll have it as a video.
Yeah, there'll be a video, and you can. The best thing is to just download, like Brian, if you can upload that just even as a stack file in the there's a word for it, but I can't think of it right now. Slack.
Oh, it's like
Even without, you could just post it in Slack, and they could download it and play around with it. And doing that, tracing it through, like putting a breakpoint and then just stepping through, I find is the best way to learn, because you can like put your mouse over a variable and you see, oh wait, there's no value, just like what happened. That T card was empty. Okay, something's wrong. I didn't put some reason that variable, and then it was because that short name was black. So that means it thinks it's a variable name or some other thing. if they're like blue or purple or some other color, then it thinks it's a reserved word, like it's an important or an actual term in the language. So those are some kinds of the cues you have when you're going through. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen. Desktop 1. Okay. This is when they show you the cake, and then now you go back and see how you made the cake. Okay, so in Joan's code, she had the thing so she could send her xAPI statement off to the LRS, right? Mm-hmm. So she had the, basically like the idea of the username, the password, the endpoint, and then she had a little field that had all of the xAPI code, but that was just typed in. So it hasn't been created yet by the application. So what we were doing is Brian was making his interface where you could click on the different buttons and it would show you, you could have a the code for played, the code for seeked, the code for whatever in that square. But you're still just using static code, or what they call it's hard coded. You just, rather than make it up on the fly, you just type it out. And that's a good way to do when you're first testing. It's like, I want to test one feature. I want to make the navigation, or I want to make this. So I'm just going to have some standard text that is what my goal is to make eventually interactively. But for now, we're using the hard coding. So what I was doing was, then the next step is say, okay, I want to create that xAPI statement. So on here, I've got an example, and I was using a different LRS, and I haven't done the connections, but so this first part here was just how I connect to the learning resource server. And then, so the next part is the elements of the xAPI statement. So there's the actor, and so it had the actor name, their email, the actor and an ID, actor email, and then the actor name. And so I've just entered them into fields here. And then, okay. So then the verb, I'm trying to group select everything here. So I've got the verb experienced, and then the verb ID, which is the URL to the actual verb on the ADL net, like on the big dictionary. And another thing that they have, when I was researching this, there's a display language. So which language is it displayed? So I put this in. And then there's the object. And in this case, we're using a video. And I don't know why I've sent. Anyways, there's supposed to be an object ID. Okay. So using these values out of these fields, I'm going to put together all of the elements. I'm going to put together the actor, the verb, and the object. So that, and those I've already got set up. But then the last one is the result. So the result I'll make on the here, so that I can show you how I got those. So I've got a button here. So I've got to find my palette there, my tools palette. So on the tools palette, I'm going to go to my browse tool. And I've got a button here called Send xAPI Statement. And so this starts the process of creating the statement, and then it gets to the point where it's going to send the statement, but I haven't got that in there. And that's something that would then go could be send a command off to what Joan had done, where she actually sends xAPI statements to an LRS. So it really, I should say, create xAPI statement on this button. So here I'm using the same thing that we just did. So except I'm using a different way of doing it. I'm saying a switch statement. And a switch statement says, I'm getting a variable or a value, the short name of the target. And so you can have different cases. So it's a different, you could also use like if then, if short name of the target equals this, then do this. Else if it equals this, then do this. Else if it equals this, then do this. But a quicker way to do it is switch, and so I have different cases. So the button that I clicked on was send xAPI statement. So if I click this step into next statement button on the top left here, then it just jumps to the next point and it says build xAPI statement. So that's a handler that I created. And so I click into the next statement. And so now I've got a command. So I just created command build xAPI statement. And so what it does, I put some comments, puts the elements of the statement into an array, and then convert the array to a JSON object. And then add the values to, okay, yeah. So first thing it's doing is adding those values to an array. So here I'm just taking those fields that I showed you before and I'm putting them into variables. So put field actor into tActor, put field actor email into tActor mbox. So I'm just calling it another name for the mail. Put actor name into tActor name. And so now I have another command, add xAPI actor. And then these are the parameters that I have for it. So tActor, now if I hold my mouse over, I can see it's demo@nextsoftwaresolutions.com. The actor mailbox is actually the same value, and the actor name is demo. So now I've called the next handler. And so there, I've gone to command add xAPI actor. And so these are now parameters. So those three values that I put, what I called it, now are shown at the beginning of this. And I'm using a p value to show that it's a parameter. It's something that was passed into the command. So p actor inbox, p actor name. Oh, and p actor inbox is empty because I spelt it wrong. No, that shouldn't be a problem. P actor name doesn't have a value. Oh, I know what I did wrong. Because all of those values are in my first p actor, so I called it incorrectly. And what I did was I had brackets on there, which I shouldn't have had brackets. So I'm just gonna stop this because it's gonna fail. So I hit this stop debugging button. Then I'm gonna take off the brackets. And now that was me pretending this was done on purpose, but it wasn't. I made a mistake. So I'm just going to put a breakpoint there, though, so that I can stop there quickly and not have to go all through all these steps just to see if it works. So I'm going to hit that button again. Stop. Send xAPI statement. And I'm just going to hit place so I can go to the next breakpoint. So tActor is right. tActor mbox is right. t-actor name is right. Jump to here, t-actor inbox is correct, t-actor name is correct. So now I've got that correct. So now all of those parameters have a value. And so now in the let's try to show you something. So this is an example of an xAPI. Oh. So here you have, it says actor, and then it has the, within actor, it has two elements, the name and the inbox. So you've got to make the array have that overall section actor, and then you have to have two subcomponents or sub-elements, name and inbox. So to do that, I need to say what the component is. And the other thing it has, I think it has, well, this one doesn't show a type in there, but it can also have a type, and agent is the object type. And so then what I'm going to do is now start creating an array, and that's a different type of variable. So far the variables we have are just single values. And so it's like the name, the mailbox, the whatever. But now I want a structured type of data where I have something that looks like that array. Is that you have actor, verb, object. Within actor, you have name, mailbox. Within verb, you have verb ID and verb name. So an array will do that. And so I start setting it up. And the way you create an array is that you have those things in square brackets. So I have T component, actor, object type. So then I've got actor, inbox, actor, name. So I'm going to just jump through this. And now to see what my array looks like at this moment, I can click on this disclosure triangle. And so see these just plain old variables. I have the actor, and it just shows me the name. But in the array, it has a disclosure triangle because now I've got these sub-elements. So I've got actor, and within actor, it's got agent, inbox, and name. Okay. So I'm going to then jump back out of this. So this last button here on that's upper left-hand corner is to get out of the current handler and go back to the handler I was in. And so now I'm going to do the same thing with verbs. So I'm going to just hit return. And so there's the verb. So right now we have actor within our array. And so now we've got a verb. And so the verb has a display and an ID. I'm just going to hit return again because then it'll go to the object. And so there's lots of different values within the object. I'm just going to run through that quickly. I'm going to jump down to set up the object. And so the component name is object. The type is an activity. I've got the ID and everything like that. So I'm just going to go to when that is set up for the object. So it has, there again, it has a definition, it has an ID, it has all of that. So now we've been just building this array out. Go back up. Out of that. And so now the next command I've got is send xAPI request to LRS. And I'm going to jump down into there. So this is the part that, so now we've got an array with this structure. And then the command, this is a LiveCode command, array to JSON. So I just pass it the value that of my array, which when I hover my mouse over, it shows the first level of the structure. It shows an action, actor, an object, and a verb. And then there's a couple other values, whether it's a string or not, and whether it shows the spacing. And I'm going to then do that. So now there should be somewhere, if I've done things correctly, TXAPI JSON. Oh, another thing about variables, if you've got really long ones, you just double click on them and you get a little box to view the variable as a whole. So now we have something that looks very much like we want. We've got the curly brackets in a JSON object. We have actor with the parts, the components, object, the verb. Those are there. The other thing you could do is, if you wanted to, you could actually change your variables midstream. So say you realize, okay, I want to rename this variable, or to change this a little bit. Instead of demo, it's daemon, and apply that. So that just changes the variable as it goes on. So that's just another little fun thing you can do with LiveCode, because you're coding it live, you're changing variables live. Then the last thing I'm going to do here before I stop this is another sort of technique as you're developing to try and see what you've done is this, say, put this variable. So I don't say where to put it, I don't say to put it into anything. And so I hit this, and it actually puts it into the message box. So now I could actually take it and copy it and paste it over. So Brian was showing you all of those different pages with, you know, for the different verbs. So we could have the verb, which one, seeked or something. So you could say, okay, I'll copy this, paste it, and then use Joan's her code to send it to the API, the LRS, and then say, okay, did everything go through correctly or not? So it's just sort of a debugging tip, is that you can sort of just, if you need to get the values out so you can test them in another way, that's just by putting it. If you just say put, or put, I know I don't say put like most people do, but it just sticks it into this little window. So I use the message box a lot for things like that.
Yeah, that's good, Martin. Thank you.
Okay, so I will stop there.
Thank you so much for going through that.
Yeah. So the parts I haven't done yet is the next thing is the object ID and stuff like that, but I didn't realize how long I've gone, so I won't show you that part of it, but it's basically just creating that same process again. But the main points was to show you how you create an array, and then that array, using that one code, creates the xAPI. So any questions or any other comments?
It is awesome. Thanks, Helen. She mentioned it in the chat.
Okay.
I thought. No, I can see you've put quite a lot of work into that, Martin. That looks really good. I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just commenting that
Okay.
having that put it in the message box is something helpful to me. I'm glad to see that.
Okay. Like if you want, I could, like there's 15 minutes left. So that's why I just all of a sudden looked up and saw there was 15. So there's maybe other things you want to talk about or whatever. And I'm going to keep working on this so that I can put it in a form so that Joan could incorporate it into hers, or you could incorporate it into yours. And the way I would do that is all of these commands right now are just in a mouse button, or no, they're in a card.
Right.
But what I can do is save them in another stack that's called the script only stack. And so that just, as soon as you add that stack, then all those commands are available to the project that you're working on. So eventually our goal is to have all of these different elements into one stack.
Yep.
That we'll have a video on it. You'll start playing it. It will actually generate, like it will say, create the xAPI. It will pass all of these things. So it'll say who's the actor, what the verb is seeked, what the object is, this video, and you can have the object name and stuff like that. And then finally what the result is. And that's the part I haven't done yet, is created all of the values for the object. So the next phase of this is to do it live, so that as you interact with the video, it's firing off these commands to add the verb, add the actor, add the object, add the verb, add the result, create the xAPI statement, send it down to what Joan wrote so that it sends it off to the LRS. So you just got the stream of statements going from that are all being originated by a person just watching a video and playing with 3 different buttons. And they have no idea all of the stuff that's running in the background to send that stuff.
Martin, like you suggested, I can take the stack that we were working on based on Jones with the different cards and pull that up into Slack so people can see it and play with it. And another.
Yeah, and I can post this one as well. I realize I need to fix a couple things, and I'm going to add this result.
Yep.
And but I will extract the, or actually what would be better, I could, yeah, I'll create the script only stack, but then I can attach it to whatever you post. And if Jones is up there, I can attach it to theirs so that you can both work on it. But we really should eventually, and not too long, try and get it into one. Who was it that was saying they were going to do the video interface of it? Peter? Yeah, I think it was Peter.
He couldn't
Said he had,
do this, but yeah, if we can look to him for that, he might be sort of the unifying factor we all work around. Okay.
So hopefully that was helpful and not too disjointed.
I thought it was good, Martin. It's always a challenge to just show somebody where you're at.
Yeah.
And resist the temptation. Oh, I've got to go in and fix this. I've got to go in and fix it. It's not working the way I want it yet.
Yeah. No, and also just to give an idea of I mean, everyone has different workflows when they use LiveCode. So just to see different people working on it, and different techniques that they've learned to make, you know, to make it as quick and efficient as possible. But then as I'm telling you to do these things, I'm realizing, okay, that didn't quite work. When I was saying like order those buttons, and for some reason it decided to order them in different order.
Yeah.
But what happens is, it's usually what happens with any of those things is it goes in the order that you select them. So if you pick whatever you pick first, then anything else will follow. So if you want it to set the same width and height, you pick the first button, and then anything else after, and then you say equalize the width, equalize the height, they'll all follow the first button. But for some reason, when it went edge to edge, I thought if you pick the first one and then select all the others after, it'll respect the order, first, second, third, fourth selected. But for some reason, it took a different order, and so it took the last one and put it up here, and it just mixed them up. So they may have, so that's just odd.
Yep.
I've never had that happen before, so I'm not sure why, because I use that a lot when I'm trying to put things together.
It's always the challenge to program remotely and have somebody else move the mouse.
Yeah. Yeah, over there, to the right, to the right. And my mouse usually, oh, I've got my screen sharing, but usually, well, there it is.
Yep.
I've got a thing set so that if you shake it, you get a large mouse for a second so that people can see where you are. I think that's a Mac thing. I don't think that's an addition. There's a setting in the
I've seen
Mac.
it in Windows yet, but it wouldn't surprise me if they don't have something like
Yeah.
that.
There used to be, there's different programs you can buy, like, or download. Mouse Bose is a nice one if you're doing a lot of screen sharing, because you can set up things like you click and it shows a red dot and it slowly goes away, or different things like that. And I'm sure Windows has them too. But I think that one, shake the mouse and make it big, is something that you can click on in settings.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Martin. We appreciate you showing your status. And I guess we've already sort of touched base, but just before we wrap up, I do the same thing. Kevin or Helen, do you have any comments or concerns? The other thing I put out is another when to meet for holding the intro to LiveCode. This, to me, it sort of looks like this. We're sort of diving in on what we're doing with our projects. I'm starting to wonder, do we need something that's higher level, or is this moving people along to where they need to be? Maybe that would be the final question I have you answer. Kevin, what do you think?
Well, no, I'm fine with this. I mean, thanks to Martin, and from last week when Joan
Yep.
showed us what she had, and then you took it, Martin. And so when you were showing me all the actors and objects and all that and everything, it made a lot more sense to me. Okay, I see how he's putting it together now. So I'm glad that you used that, Devin, and used her objects and all that, because that really helped me.
Okay. Yeah, I just think it's good to keep, like, everyone's doing little parts and try and take each things that people have done and try and put it all together, because that's too how people work on a team. Sometimes one person will focus on one part, another person will focus on another part, but then you've got to get it all working together. And that's what, with Brian posting things on GitHub, that's how, you would, I'm still learning GitHub, but there's ways that you can have the base code, and then someone branches it off and they work on their part. And then when they're done, it's called a pull request, and they send it, and then the person maintaining it says, okay, that's good, and pulls it in. And Brian has done that a couple of times for things that I've modified on that first project I uploaded, but maybe we could do that
I would like
for this
Yeah,
one.
I would like. Yeah, that would be good for the poll. I was curious about how to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, because it's a
that's
whole
the
other skill.
advantage, right?
Yeah.
That's-
So that could be something once we get that figured out, because LiveCode, you have to do it in a certain way. Like other programming languages, the program is all text files, right? So everything is a text file, so that all GitHub does is it looks at two text files and it says, oh, this line got changed. So that's a diff, like a difference. So then now this becomes separate. And so when it updates, it takes the most recent one and replaces that one. And so now you've got that, but it's called a commit. And you say, okay, I commit this change. This line, I changed demo to daemon. And so now that becomes the most recent one. But if you don't want everyone changing everything,
Right.
you make it so that they have to branch it. And so now I've changed demo to daemon, and then the code maintainer, like Brian, would say, okay, I accept that. And so now from then on, it's daemon. And so like JavaScript, Python, all of those use text files. LiveCode has used binary files, which you can't do that because all they see is just like just you can't see the text. So what LiveCode did was they made script only stacks, so that those are text only, and there's very little in the binary file, the stack file. So you put your UI, your pictures, your graphics, because that isn't something you change by text. You just manipulate that, but all of the code is in text files. So we would have to sort of take all of the different code that we've got and create a little library. So the one that Joan has for sending the xAPI, the one that I have for creating the xAPI statement, maybe one for the video card that actually handles the interaction. So picks up, like, click the play button, dragged from 0 to 10, and sends that and converts that into, this converts that into an xAPI statement, like makes the call to create the xAPI statement. So there's basically 3 parts. And so each of those would be a separate text file. And so that you could modify, so one person could be modifying one, another could be modifying another, another modifying another. But then the interactive part, the UI, would just be that you would have like a card that you sign in with your username and password. So that's where you get the actor. And then you go right to the video file, or you might go to a card to download your project, that your object, like your video file. And then the next thing is you interact with it. And once you interact with it, it says, okay, I've already got the user's name and author and all of that. I've got the object because you downloaded it. And now I've got the verbs because this card has all the verbs: play, seek, stop, initialized, all of those. So you just, part of it too is just saying, okay, what's the structure of this? What's the user going to go do? They're going to log in, they're going to pick a video to watch, they're going to watch the video, and then they're going to log out. And so you sort of organize that UI. Then you're going to say, okay, what has to happen in the background? Okay, when you log in, those values you got to keep. When you pick a video, those values you got to keep. When you start interacting with the video, these are each statement, like play, pause, and so. But all the code now is in text files, which then can be used with Git. So that could be part of this project, is to just structure that application overall. So just making up could be like 4 cards.
Okay.
And then from those 4 cards, attaching the libraries that would work with those. Oh, I saw Brian make a face.
It sounds real good.
Yeah. So Brian just looked up to his right and went, oh. And so I assume there's a clock on the wall to his right, and he saw it's 5:30.
No, it was a sudden jolt of pain. So.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, here I'm making light of your sudden jolt of pain.
I had mute turned on, but sometimes the surgery sort of comes back to haunt me in
Oh no, I'm sorry.
surprising ways. Oh, good now.
Oh, good.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
But yeah,
Okay.
this turned out to be a good session. Helen, do you have any
Yes.
thoughts? Go ahead.
No, I just learned a lot. I learned a lot, took lots of notes. And
Oh,
I'm
good.
really following. The explanations are really helpful and I'm following along. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'd say we can go ahead and wrap up here. I'll make progress on getting the video files up there and put at least the version that I've made with some changes. It's got to have a few more cards to get all of the, all of the elements for handling the video up there. But then
Yeah.
I put that into Slack like Martin suggested, and everybody can take a turn with it, see about putting their own stuff in there.
So,
Yeah.
what I was wondering, Helen and Kevin, are there things that you think you could start with, like work on or would like to work on?
I mentioned that to Brian like earlier before we all got here, that I would like to do, like now that you mentioned like how, like with the GitHub, how you can, pull and we can separate our items, our goals, with our different actors and objects and how we want to put it together. It's a lot clearer to me. So like maybe out of one of the more simpler acts of putting it together on the GitHub, we could figure out something that on a simpler level, like maybe I could put the actors down. I don't know, or something that might be needed to repeat it, or a simple statements or something to put in.
Because one thing is just working with the video interface.
Yeah.
So figuring out all of the different things, like going the commands that Brian has listed there, and then figuring out how you would create commands for each of those. So play, pause, seek, and if you read through the dictionary for LiveCode,
Okay.
you could see how to do that. So you basically drag a video player in, and then just see how you can capture each of those commands when the player.
Okay.
So you could work on that part of it, and then you would be working on the that interface where the player sends a command or sends a message.
Okay.
You would intercept that message, and then from that message you would send us. So if they said stopped, you would say, okay, but when the message stopped, it says, video stopped. You send a message, video stopped. And then the xAPI statement, or the part that I says, or have that say, okay, a verb has been sent. Here's what happened. Stopped at this time, something like that. But the main thing to get started is just create a stack, put a video in it, and then play around with that. See how that works, see how plays, pause, stop, all of the different messages that come from a video object. That could be one element that we haven't started on yet.
Okay. It could be any video object to practice, right?
Yeah. When you drag it, it has a short little video. But you can, if you've got a video on your desktop that's like an MP4, or you've got a Windows or a Mac?
Windows.
Windows. So
MP4.
Is it MP4
just use
that
an
it plays, or yeah?
Yeah, MP4.
Yeah. So use that, and then just set that as the file name for it, and then you can just play it and pause it and do that, and look at the messages that get initiated. So you just have command or on, actually on, played, then the script, on, pause, on, whatever.
And I can go through on LiveCode, right? I can go right into LiveCode. They have it.
Yeah. So I'll just show you how you find all of those messages, and then I'll stop.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm just sharing my screen. So the main thing is just go to the dictionary here. It's the second last thing on your toolbar.
Hold on.
And so if the object is called, or the object is called the player. Oh yeah. I'm just looking. So if you type player, then you get all of the different commands that are related to the player. But I want messages. Oh, but I don't want AV player item, because that's a whole different thing. Oh, that's okay. Now I'm making this harder than it is. I know all the terms for this, but why don't I see the messages? Oh, there, play pause. Okay, so this is one for paused. So it says play paused, it's a message. And then I look at what it says, and it says it's associated with the player, so the player object. And it's sent to the player when the user pauses it. So if the user hits the pause button, the player gets a play paused. So you say on play paused, and this gives an example, on play paused, and then you say what you want to do. And now you've got other links here that you can now start to look for more info. So I hit the keyword for player.
What would that play pause that you wrote do, that you had just written there?
Okay.
What would that do?
Like, okay,
the one that you had written in there.
yeah, I'll just do a quick. Now I'm really eating into your time, but I'll just show
I'm learning how to do this.
Okay, yeah. So I'm dragging out a new stack. I just created a new stack.
Okay.
I'm grabbing a video player. So if I hit the browse, I could just see their little video they have. I'm going to resize it just so that you can see it a bit better. So you can see all of the different elements of the player. So here I'm hitting play and paused, right? So I can edit the script of the player. And so I put that same thing I found in the dictionary. So I go back to the dictionary, and it says, oh, I go back. It says on play paused. So I'm going to copy this just to get the syntax right. Oh, didn't work. Oh, maybe it doesn't let me copy from the dictionary. Nope, doesn't let me copy from the dictionary. That's bad. Okay, on play paused. Oh, but here, so on play paused. So this is handy because it shows all of the different play functions that or some of them there. On play paused. Oh, that didn't work. Hit tab. So on play paused, and then it gives me the whole thing. Okay. And then, so just as a quick thing, I'm going to say answer hey, you stopped or paused. So I hit play and I hit pause, and it says, hey, you paused. So what happened is when I hit the pause button, it sends a message to the player itself. And so now I go to this command, answer, and all answer does is set up a dialogue. And then in the dialogue, it just has whatever you've typed here. So when I go to that, it just says, hey, you paused. But what we want to do is do something like, I'm just going to do a put command. So this is what I was saying. I put it into the message box, put for paused video. So I'm going to find, so a quick way to get your message box is you do Command and M or Alt M on the Windows machine. And then I'm just going to arrange this so I can see it at the same time. So it says send xAPI for pause video, but I'm going to put a few others here. I'm just going to copy this. This is my other trick I like to do. So I'm just putting, and the ands are how you put different pieces of text together. So I'm just saying, put this and the carriage return and the carriage return after the message box. If you put to the message box, it just replaces the contents. But if you do after, it adds it after. And if you put carriage returns, it just makes new lines. So I'm going to apply that. So now I get so now I got send xAPI for started video, send xAPI for pause video, send xAPI for started video, send xAPI for pause video. So that's basically all you're doing when you're, like what your goal is in this script, is you're capturing all these different commands that the video player sends. And then you would put a command here that sends the statements to go down to send the xAPI. So the statements that I was writing, you would put those in and you would add the parameters in those. So you could play around with setting up the video doing the interface, and then just start experimenting and looking for other. So like just when I did play, and it gives me started, stopped, finished. So those are some other commands you could play around with and see when those get sent. And then time changed. I think it's time changed. Oh, player time changed maybe. Current time changed. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. Current time changed. That would be for seeked video, I think, if I can remember correctly. So I'm just going to empty my message box. So if I drag it, oh, it sends lots of them. So this one is, as you're dragging it, it sends them. So you know you're seeking. So there's another way to do it. I just can't remember. But that just gives you an idea of what you're doing is you're just trying to receive all of these messages from the player and then figure out how you get the value you want and send the commands. So that would be that interface where we interact with the video. Oh, you're sending me a video. Brian, I saw your link. I'll just show you how to.
Yeah, just in case, Martin, I sent you URLs to the sample videos that we put up on our server.
Yeah, okay.
You were doing fine with what you had.
Yeah, no, this one's good. So, oh, that don't work. Oh, I got too many videos running. And I don't know why.
Sounds like me.
Oh, I see. I'm playing them all. Okay. So just to set up a source video, or to set up a video, anyways, I'm just babbling on now. Paste. No. What's wrong? I don't think, oh, I think that might be not just plain text, but it should be. Anyways.
This has been real helpful, but I have to run.
Yeah, no, sorry. I'm just, I can go on all day. So anyways, I'll post this up too, and then you can just start playing with that and see how to get the messages.
Yeah, that would be great. Will you post it on Slack or something?
Yeah, on Slack. I'll just post it up.
Oh, that'd be great.
Okay, sorry. I brought us to another 20 minutes.
No, that was really helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Martin.
Yeah,
okay.
Very helpful.
Yep.
So I guess we're done. Well, anyways, I'm done.
Okay.
I won't talk anymore.
So Kevin and Helen and Martin, thank you all for joining today. we'll put our sample files up there on Slack so you can get hold of them, and let us know what you find out.
Yeah, thanks again. It was really good to see all this and see how it's coming, how
Yeah.
it comes together.
Okay.
Thanks,
Ciao.
everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to see
Bye-bye.
you all again. Okay,
Thank you.
bye.
Sounds like they got something out of it, Martin. I think it was helpful.
That's good. Yeah, sorry I went long. I just sort
Oh.
of kept each question. It's like, oh, I can explain that.
Yeah. Don't apologize to me. I'm learning from you, so I appreciate it.
Okay.
You know, it's amazing what a 5-minute demo can do, especially when you're showing those examples of how to send the messages and just trap them and respond to it. And like you said, it's interesting to see somebody that's experienced with it, like the seeked video. As you're dragging, it's sending multiple messages. It's not just one on start and one on stop. It's sending them as moving the mouse along. So you need an idea of how many it's trying to send, because its API statements are going to be doing that too.
No, yeah, because then what you, and I know this is possible because I do it in my own program. I have, and I can't remember how, but there's a way that I just ignore all of them until the last one, and then I just take that one.
Yeah, if you can
Either
restart.
that or it's a different command. I can't remember. I'll have to go back and look at my program.
Okay.
But basically it's, anyways, I gotta shut up. I'll just keep talking. I haven't had much sleep for the last couple of days, so I'm just getting loopy and I just keep talking. So
No, you're good. We'll talk to you later then.
okay, talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
Okay, bye.